evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this edition of Pro Football Alliance. The A-Train, Arlington Lane. No, I am not dirty, ladies and gentlemen. It is okay. I pretty much got this thing under control. I can handle some things while he is away. He's handling some business, and he may come on tonight. We may see him in a little bit, but I know he's going to be upset because I got a big show tonight, and grateful to have our great guest on board this evening. Joining me on the program will be Dustin Almeida of Royal Retros. I'll have Scott Adamson. He'll be coming on board to talk about some USFL with us. He's of Adamson Media. And also we'll have Bill Winters, who is a former NFL, CFL, and USFL offensive line and author. And grateful to have all of them jump on board. Let's go into a little bit of my favorite. It's our USFL news. Kick us off with a little something, all right?
Listen, guys, our numbers are down. I am really concerned with that.
We had that meeting on Tuesday, and again, I'm sorry to say, it was still...
Yeah, I'll take the red snapper at 37 on 2.
We're going to go goal line. Do the X39, 3 disaster.
Tonight's special is going to be an oven-baked salmon and a 32 sweep reverse with the X dessert.
You're going to get steak, right?
Yeah. Need more football? USFL launches this April.
Guy out of USFL Forever YouTube channel.
Yeah, because I'm on the phone with you.
Did I catch him at a bad time? Did I catch him at a bad time? That is Frankie of USFL Forever. Let me go ahead and I'm gonna let him go off for a second. He don't even know that he was on. He was on the phone. But he's co-hosting with me this evening. We're brought to you by Pack 22. Make sure you go today to pack22.com. Make sure you call Matt Eddington. If you're looking to get into a little bit of sports wagering tonight, make sure you call Matt Eddington first at 727-452-2645 to start your account. Also, Cafe Piazza STL 1900 Arsenal Street, St. Louis, Missouri. Good God Almighty, why is all of this noise happening so rapidly at such a short amount of time? A lot of chaos going on already early in the show. What's going on, Javier? What's going on, Jared? He's getting a good laugh out of everything that's going on tonight. Let's jump into it right now as I'll get my co-host in just a little bit. Joining me right now on the program from Royal Retros. You can check out the shop at royalretros.com. Great. If you look for a great throwback, not just for professional football, but they have even those from Major League Baseball. And I think I saw some Negro Leagues and stuff in there, man. I saw something special. And definitely want to touch in a little bit about that. He is the president of Royal Retros, and I'm happy to have on the show with me tonight is Dustin Almeida. Dustin,
how's it going? Good.
How you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
How you doing, sir? Good, man. Glad to have you on, man. Touch a little bit about your company, man. Tell us, those that have not, and I guess we might be crawling up under a rock. Tell us a bit about how you got started with Royal Retros.
Man, actually, I wasn't even doing clothing. Back when I was in college, I was trying to make some extra money, and was going around to like Ross and Marshalls and stuff, and picking up jerseys, reselling them. And people just kept asking for old teams they couldn't find, and kind of just got into finding suppliers, and just turned into this, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing because because when I look at some of them, I'm sitting back and I'm like, whoa, man, I never thought. I know back home, because I'm in Houston, Texas right now. Back home in St. Louis, there used to be a little small store in the hood that would sell like old throwbacks, but it's like you don't see them hardly as much anymore. You have to go, of course, you have to go online to get it. There's not in the store, but now they're back being popular again. And how did you get back into, especially something, what made you, think of, hey, I can get the USFL put it on a jersey, you know, and go out and sell it? What made you look at that league and say, hey, bring back memories for that particular organization?
I mean, the USFL was a little before my time, so I never saw him
Ditto,
play.
I can say the same thing.
Yeah. But no, I've always collected jerseys. There's just something I've always liked to do, just favorite teams and players and stuff. And when I was reselling jerseys like that, people kept asking, and basically the first couple of years, everything we had was just requests of people, can you make this or can you find this? So the USFL was just the one thing that was like the most popular thing, and that was the first like real collection that we did because so many people were asking about it. Nobody was really selling it at the time, but now it's coming back, so now it's popular again. It's good timing, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so, man, because it's looking really nice for you right now because of course, like you said, the USFL is coming back. When you heard about the USFL returning, what was your thoughts about the new league and where they were headed in the future?
I mean, I was excited about it because the only thing I knew of the USFL when I was a kid, I had like a book, and it was just like an '80s football book, and it had USFL and NFL in it, and I was always so confused. I was so confused. I mean, it didn't take until I started really like working on the company back in like 2016 when I really understood what it was. Because I remember seeing like I grew up a big Niners fan, and in this book, Steve Young was wearing like an LA helmet, and I was like, "What are these teams?" So to actually see it take the field again, to see those logos and those teams back in action, and to actually be of age now where I could watch it and appreciate it and understand it, I'm excited to see it. For sure.
Dustin Almeida is joining me right now here on Pro Football Alliance here. You can check us out on In the Zone Network's YouTube channel. You can also check us out on Pro Football Alliance YouTube channel, and we are also on Facebook. And if you can follow us, find us on Twitter, you can find us there as well. So we're on a lot of platforms. You can't miss us. And also you can go to inthezonenetwork.com. We got a live show going, kicking up right there as well. And Dustin Almeida from Royal Retros is happy enough to join me on the show tonight. So one thing I got to ask you from what is the best-selling retro shirt that you guys have right now over at Royal Retros?
Oh, that's tough. Let's see. I mean, the USFL as a collection probably right now. The specific teams, it's kind of over the place.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Usually like the Generals, like the Gamblers, those are some of the most popular ones.
So so do you get requests often, like for either certain players to put on the jersey, or you just kind of do it like it's just a retro with just the jersey itself? You know what I mean? Like, for instance, like somebody wanted Jim Kelly Houston Gamblers jersey, you would be able to pull that off for them, correct?
Yeah, it's just on the website. It's just like a box, just kind of like a custom jersey on Fanatics. You just type in the name and number that you want.
Okay, so I can make my. Was you telling me I can make my own jersey? Like, if I wanted
your own jersey,
straight up, okay.
All kinds of weird things put on jerseys, but I mean, if you
I also saw a little bit about I saw other sports on there. I saw Major League Baseball on there, and like I said, being from St. Louis, I always want one of those St. Louis Browns jerseys. Those I know in St. Louis you can get one because somebody can make it, but it's like I want something specially made for myself. What Dustin, what makes your company different from the rest?
It's mostly teams that you can't find anywhere. But we also do custom stuff. So like if there's some old jersey that we don't have on the website that you always wanted, like if you have pictures, we could just make it for you.
Absolutely.
So I don't know any other companies that really do that too much. It's just, show us a picture. A lot of people buy like their old Little League, college, high school jerseys, or just there's some player that they don't make anymore. We could just make it off a picture. So I think that's
wow.
pretty
Excellent. That's awesome, man. Because not too many people, like you said, these days can find it. Again, for those that are tuning in, this is Dustin Almeida from RoyalRetros.com, kind enough to join us to talk a bit about the USFL, and because he's got a big collection right now online. If you go to RoyalRetros.com, and check out the collection itself. I know that's a nice, vast collection. I saw Tampa. And I know our next guest that's coming on board, he was a member of the Tampa Bay Band. He's going to get him in just a second. I saw the Houston Gamblers, of course, Philadelphia Stars, New Orleans Breakers. Was all the teams on there, or you just got just a few right now?
No, all the original teams are on there.
Excellent.
Yeah, that's good. I saw you had Bill Winters coming on. I talked to him this afternoon, actually. Coincidentally, I didn't know he was on here. So yeah, lots of former players come order the jersey, especially with the USFL. So that's always cool to just have conversations with people and their experience in the league, and even NFL players. Just a lot of people that just they don't have their jerseys anymore. They're just looking for something, or a hat that just didn't exist when they played. So it's always cool.
Well, I'm glad you brought his name up because, ladies and gentlemen, on the program with us right now, coming on board, is former NFL, CFL, and USFL offensive lineman, Mr. Bill Winters. Bill, good evening to you. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
Doing fantastic. And I'm going to bring in my co-host for this evening as well, Frankie of USFL Forever YouTube. Good evening to you, Frankie.
Hello, folks. Hope everyone's doing well.
Question for you, Dustin, real quick before we get to Bill. From Sandy Johnston, I see that you've done the old XFL. Will you actually do the 2020 teams as well?
I'm not ready to be seen. I want to hopefully be a part of the new league coming next year. I'm not sure what teams are going to be back, but yeah, we're trying to get in contact, and hopefully we could do the new league, and whatever teams don't come back, hopefully try to get some of those too. Just any way we could be involved, especially with the smaller leagues, the smaller like spring leagues and stuff like that. It's always good to be involved. So
let's get Bill back in the fold. First off, Bill, tell us a little bit about. I've seen in your career, man, you played 10 seasons. I'm trying to get him back on, and it seems like we're having a little bit of trouble. There he is. Did he come up? No, he didn't come up. Okay, we're gonna try to get him in right now. There he is. Bill, wanted to see that you had a 10-year career, and it looks like it keeps bouncing back for some reason. I don't know what's going on. Oh, there he is. They're trying to get Bill. Did we get you?
No, but I can see you, but you can't see me.
Yes, those that are in wrestling, they would know about
it. Okay, we'll get the kinks out later.
We got it. We got you. So you had a 10-year career. Seeing that you started off in Washington, and then you played a season or two with the New York Giants. Tell our watchers and listeners.
We need to slow up a little bit here, real quick. Okay. The first thing is, if you go to my Wikipedia page, if you Google Bill Winters New York Giants or Bill Winters Pro Football or Bill Winters Football, it comes up. I'm an anomaly. Okay. What I mean by that is I didn't play 10 years. I played 8. Okay.
Gotcha.
So right away, we need to clarify that because, I'm a contender, not a pretender. All right. The next thing is that that tells you my body of work right there. And,
yeah, absolutely.
I love social media because I tell the young kids that I coach, and I was a high school football coach, won a state title, was working for Willie Amendola. When I was coaching my kids, I stayed off social media. I didn't do any of that stuff. Okay. And then they kind of figured out, why does coach know so much and this and that? And then they started to figure it out, particularly my 2 kids that are playing for the Generals. So after I retired, okay, I had a guy build me a platform. Why? Because I knew that the USFL was going to be recycled. I know pretty much about the league. I know the coaches and stuff because I know that this is a concept that's going to fly as long as they're on television and they've got some money and Fox is behind it and the NFL is actually behind it a little bit too. So I'll look forward to educating you guys, and that's why I'm doing social media. But you can see I'm not real tech savvy, but I'm a quick starter. Frankie and I were battling this thing for a half hour. I'll fix it the next time. Oh, I like that picture. You can put that bad boy up. All right. Like I said, so you get my body of work, but I'll just tell you real quick. I started out with the Redskins. I went to Princeton. I was a walk-on. I just wanted to be a professional football player. I went to school in case I didn't make it. I could fall back and become a doctor or a lawyer. And I went down to a tryout camp. I actually wrote a book about this, From the Outhouse to the Penthouse and Somewhere in Between. I'm a fictitious character by the name of Parker Thomas who goes to Ivy University. And what I did is I just laid the groundwork because I knew eventually, somebody would want to hear my story because I'm kind of unique. So I went to a tryout camp with the Redskins, and George Allen signed me. And me and Gerard Williams had played for the Birmingham Americans in the World Football League. And I learned how to go through training camp. The next year, I came in with the New York Giants at a tryout camp with Coach John McVay, whose grandson is Sean McVay. And he had brought up half his team from the World Football League called the Memphis Southmen. And they were like 17-4 and a really good team. He wound up keeping like 6 guys off that squad and redid the New York Giants. And he wanted to sign me. And the first thing I said to him was, Coach, I'd love to sign with you, but I'd like a $5,000 signing bonus.
Mm-hmm.
He turned around, he looked at me, and he said, why $5,000? I said, that's how much I owe my student loan. And
Wow.
I said, I'd like it paid off. And he said, I'll make sure you get it. And he says, you're going to be my starting center. I'm going to build my entire offensive line around you. So Larry Zonker was our fullback, and he had jumped to the league for more money. He was playing for the Dolphins, won a Super Bowl. Then he went to John Bassett, who I wound up playing later on for the Bandits. And Larry was a big fan of mine. Larry kind of mentored me a little bit because I didn't know this at the time, but I had number 1 draft choice measurables. I ran a 5-flat 40 at 285. I bench pressed the weight room. I think I did 27 reps. Then I got on the leg press machine, and they had a universal. They didn't have a squat rack. And I just kept leg pressing the thing, and I had all the weight on there. But I really trained hard to get there. I had a one-man blocking sled that I set up at Hofstra. And so I kind of write this in my book. I just wanted to give my best effort. And so if I didn't make it, I knew that I could go on and be something else like a lawyer or a doctor and say that at least I tried, because I never wanted that to haunt me. But I was lucky enough to make the roster. Unfortunately, I got hurt in training camp, dehydrated because I didn't know how to hydrate players. So after the end of the season, I went up and played for the Montreal Alouettes and played in the Grey Cup and just kind of, learned how to be a professional football player and then made the most of the USFL. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell. You can follow the Wikipedia page, and that'll kind of tell you my story because I'm sure we want to talk about other things. But it's a very unique career.
There was one particular thing, Bill, that I saw was there was an association that was back in the day from 78 to 83. And Dustin, maybe you might want to take a look into this as well for Royal Retros, was the American Football Association. Tell our
storm.
Tell our listeners a bit about that experience for you, Bill.
All right. Well, I I'd gotten hurt. I came down from the Canadian League. I was playing for the BC Lions, and I tore the crap out of my knee. And the doctor told me, who was the Vancouver Whitecaps doctor, they won the NASL title that year. That's when American, the NASL was just first starting out. And I was told that I may never walk again without a limp. And it was the first AstroTurf surface installed in the Western Hemisphere, so it was like playing on rock. And I had gotten traded from the Montreal Alouettes to the BC Lions because I was holding out for money. And, I was one of the highest paid linemen up there. And, they had like 8 knee operations that year. So to answer your question, I came down and I was doing rehab and working as a broker down in South Florida. The phone rings, and it's a guy by the name of Bugsy Engelberg. And Bugsy was a master of, football. He had a lot of connections. And he says, they're going to have a professional football league called the USFL. Mm-hmm. And he says, there's a guy by the name of Donald Trump that's going to buy a team eventually. And he said, I'd like you to come, play for the Orlando Americans. And I said, well, I can take a leave of absence from my job. And I said, I'd really like to give it a shot because I think my knee will be all right in about a year or so. He says, well, we'll put you up in an apartment complex and we'll, pay you a couple $100 a week. And, you can, try to play your way back into this league. So I went up and played for the Orlando Americans. And we got a percentage of the gate. And Jerry Goldstein was our quarterback. Jerry had played for the New York Giants with me. He wound up playing for the Orlando Renegades. And he had played in the NFL for a few years. And so I wound up playing for the Orlando Americans, and then went back to work. The next year, I played for the Carolina Storm, and that was the best semi-pro team in the country.
Mm-hmm.
And we had some guys who were pretty good football players. Reggie Smith wound up playing for us, and Reggie wound up making the Atlanta Falcons as a kickoff returner. So I kind of learned that, it's not where you come from. It's you got to get reps. And, once you get reps, for a lot of guys, the pilot light comes on. There's a guy by the name of Nate Newton, who was a teammate of mine, who wound up playing for the Dallas Cowboys. And Nate was an unbelievable guy in inside drill, but he couldn't pass block his grandmother. And I knew he was going to take my job, but because I saw him in inside drill, and he'd usually pick up the linebackers and put them on skates and run with them for like 10 yards.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of went to a Fridays with him one time, and we were sitting there eating, and all of a sudden the chair started to buckle because the guy was like 360 pounds. He was a genetic freak, and it was funny. And this is the second year of the Bandits. I had played left guard for them the first year.
Right.
And he came in the second year, but he had played with the Redskins, and he needed to get reps because they had a pretty good offensive line up there. So he was sitting in a chair, and the chair started to buckle. All of a sudden it broke. Well, he started, it was like he was going to fall backwards. And he kept waving his hand. So all of a sudden he dropped his ass. And he wound up, sinking his weight. Okay, and we were all laughing. I also was choking on my food. I was laughing so hard. And I said, hey, that's what you got to do. You got to drop your, ass so you stay on your feet and just stay in front of the guy. The next day, that's all he ever did when he pass blocked. And I said, this kid's going to be an unbelievable football player. He should be playing in the National Football League. All right, and he, wound up doing great things. But it was so funny because that's how he learned. The pilot light came on. All right, because coach, stay low, Nate. He didn't understand that you guys stay low, but keep your back straight. He would stay low, but he'd bend forward so the guys would, grab him and go by him. But he was a pretty quick study. But I always love to tell that story because, sometimes there's some unbelievable talent out there, and the young guys don't really get the opportunity to show out much. I remember that when my career with the Giants, you get a first week. Phil Villapiano told me that. I was playing for the Oakland Raiders, and he came to visit me when I was in high school, and he said, Billy, if you ever wind up playing pro ball, you've got to come in the best shape of your life because to show these people what you're about before the veterans come in and you're in the sixth string. And that's exactly what I went through with the Redskins. I just kept absorbing everything they taught me, and then I applied it, in the offseason. It came in and had number one draft choice measurables. That's why they gave me the signing bonus. And I was so far ahead of the yield curve that they didn't know how to hydrate players back then because nobody even lifted weights when I came to the Giants. They had a universal and somebody had stolen the pins. So,
wow.
When I was Redskins, they had that's when I got with a strength coach, and he made a big difference in me. So, I just set up shop working for a cosmetics company, Estee Lauder in Melville, Long Island. And I invested in a one-man blocking sled, put it at Hofstra, and just trained like Rocky for like 6 months. And I put on like 35 pounds, and I came in and I was a beast. And I just started road grading people, and that's when McVay said, you're going to be my starting center. Well, Nate had the same kind of presence when he came in. It kind of reminded me of myself a little bit, except I think Nate was a little bit bigger. And but it took him a while for the pilot light to come on. And then once he did, he's had a great career. So,
all right, we got a clip of Bill. We got you in action, man. We're gonna show you in just a second. You gotta tell us what happened. I think it was here, and they mentioned you by name. Getting my guy to upload it right now onto the page. So you gotta tell us after the clip is ended. You gotta tell us what happened in the middle of the play when you see it. Okay. All right, we'll go ahead and run it.
Okay, your wideouts are Danny Buggs and Jerry Gordon, but they're going to keep it on the ground right up the middle, a very basic running game once again, and that is Stamper. He is a workhorse running back, comes from a small college, Fort Lewis, Colorado College. Sam Mills from the Doghouse defense on the stop. It's going to bring up a third down for the San Antonio Gunslingers. It'll be third, and they're going to call it 2 yards to go.
Great acquisition, Don, for the San Antonio team has been Bill Winters. He's been the starting center in both of their victories, and he cleared out the middle very well on that play.
All right, everybody got a chance to check out the clip. What you think, Bill?
Yeah. One of the
Did everybody
things
get a chance?
Go ahead. What's your question?
Oh, I'm saying, if you checked out the clip, go ahead. What's your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I saw it. First of all, that was on Easter Sunday. We played the Philadelphia Stars, and quite frankly, the Stars were as good as any NFL teams. And what I mean by that, Bart Oates is a client of mine. I worked as a broker, and he became the starting center for the Giants. And so he's on record as saying that the Philadelphia Stars were better than half the NFL teams. See, this is what the young people don't understand. Back then, it was a totally different mindset for being a professional athlete. They only had 28 teams, 43-man rosters, 4-man taxis, $2 million payrolls. The teams were always crying poor mouth. The rumor was they were writing us off as tax returns, as depreciating assets. So we weren't even human beings. Well, this is a business. Yeah, Robbie and Culverhouse were tax attorneys. That's why Larry and those guys left and went to the World League for more money. So after a while, you start to learn this is a business, and you better be smart. That's why my education is why it allowed me to survive all this stuff. And I kind of can, as a history major, I can kind of see, what's going to happen in the future. That's one of the reasons why I'm doing this social media and doing these podcasts. But to answer your question, the Philadelphia Stars, the line coach for the Philadelphia Stars was Jim Erkenbeck, and Jim was my coach with the Montreal Alouettes. All right. In fact, the left guard for the Stars, he wound up playing next to me the following year with the San Antonio Gunslingers, Richie Garza out of Temple. All right. And Richie is Richie's a great guy. I should have him on your show sometime. He's a trip. And he's the team chaplain for the Spurs. He's gone around. He's met the president. He goes to prisons and talks about God and religion and all that. Rick Neuheisel's done really well. Juan Castillo, our teammate, longest tenured line coach in the National Football League, going into his 27th year. He's with the Bears right now. He was with the Eagles. So on this particular play, this is like we were a team that basically didn't have real good management. Well, we had a lot of renegade guys. We were like the black sheep and the Oakland Raiders of the USFL. We had a real cast of characters, and it was an expansion team. So Rick Neuheisel used to joke around about the fact that Trump and Spurrier, those franchises, didn't want to play us because they were afraid we'd beat them, and they were spending all this money on these players. And here we had a team that, we had an owner that wouldn't go out and buy superstars. And he came in at the last minute, so we were kind of not supposed to win any games. And,
wow.
I remember our first start was against the Oakland Invaders, and we were 0-4, and we wound up beating them, and it was, I could have written a sitcom in the fourth quarter, and I'd only been there for 3 days, and I, wound up starting. We wound up winning the game, and then we finished 7-7 out of the last 14 games, and I got hurt, so we finished with a record of 7-11 and missed one game out of the playoffs, but we had the Michigan Panthers on the ropes, and these games are on my YouTube channel. So as the USFL progresses, the kids are going to be able to look and say, hey, I see what went on in the 80s. Now I see what's going on now. Thanks for the information so I can make better decisions about my future. So I run with a bunch of young guys on the weekends, and I'm handing the ball off to them because they're a lot like Dustin. Dustin's awesome. I was on the phone with him. We were actually, I'm framing my jersey, so we're I'm getting it matched. So he was real nice about, making sure that I had my jersey the way he wanted it and everything else. So I highly recommend him. I've got some
Dustin's
young guys
on with us now.
Yeah, I died laughing when he got on. I go, this the karma's good. So this is my life. I go from one extreme where Frank and I are battling this thing where I'm stuck on stupid because I'm not real good trying to get on this stuff. My girlfriend's usually here, but she couldn't make it today. So he spent a half hour working with me. And we finally got on here, but you can see we didn't get on there all the way, and I don't want to ruin the show. But when Dustin was on there, I actually talked to him today.
Wow. Yeah, he just said it. He just said it.
And all this stuff. Yeah. Oh, his jerseys are awesome. It's awesome. He does great work.
There you go.
So we're having fun. We're having some fun with the USFL project because those guys love me. And, so I kind of love it because I know this is a special part in history. And, I think it's, so I can kind of keep my answers short and a little bit more to the point because I'm kind of all over the place, but you kind of get the feel for it now about what we're talking about.
Well, I'm about to bring in another individual that is big on alternative football. He's been over the last 30 years in newspapers, and he's written some books about alternative football as well. Got to bring on the show with us today for the first time on the Pro Football Alliance is Scott Adamson. Scott, good evening to you, sir. How you doing this evening?
I'm doing good. How are you guys doing?
Did I get him on? I'm supposed to.
Yeah, you got him.
Okay. All right.
We see him.
Scott, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
I see him, but
we can hear him.
Y'all can hear him? Okay. You can. Y'all can see him? Okay, good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to enter here.
I got some jerseys in the background that you might recognize. They're a little Royal retro stuff.
There we
are. Thank you, Scott.
Guys, real quick. First of all, thank you, Dustin, Scott, and especially Bill for being joining the show. We did have a little issue with Bill's camera, but it was kind of funny because he's got Windows 7, okay? That's what it was. But just so you know, I appreciate Bill because we had a 1-hour conversation last night, and this man is full of great stories, things I didn't know about, okay? We're going to be doing other podcasts. Hopefully he'll join us for those because we want to do a USFL alumni and legend show. We're scheduled to do Marcus Dupree sometime, hopefully next week. My USFL Forever channel has got over 6,000, almost 6,000 subscribers. So we want to honor those players during this new USFL season, even though they're not going to be honored for whatever reason. But I do appreciate you guys coming on. Dustin, let me ask you something.
Sure.
Out of curiosity, what got you involved? Well, what you're doing now, I know I saw your website and it had a lot of different leagues, jerseys from different leagues, different sports, I guess. Is that correct? Okay.
Yeah.
What got you involved with that? Why did you suddenly think, hey, I'm going to sell all these jerseys and, create this thing?
That's a lot about history. I enjoy, obviously sports is my passion. I enjoy learning about history and just kind of putting them together. Especially a lot of these I feel like are forgotten teams and players that really don't get the recognition. Like you're saying, like the league this year, they're not planning on honoring or really even mentioning people from the original league. And it's like, I just kind of want to create something where we could bring back and teach younger generations just about teams and players of the past and why things are the way they are today. Even my generation, people that I know like grew up with, have no idea that there was a league that could compete with the NFL for players, because it just seems so crazy these days that could never happen. But it's like it wasn't so long ago, that these Hall of Fame players were playing in the spring. So it's I just really enjoy, researching and bringing back memories and teaching people about some of these old leagues and teams.
I'm glad you said that because it's important for the new generation to understand that there was a league called the USFL who changed the landscape of the NFL. Scott, let me ask you this. What do you remember about the USFL? What did it mean to you?
It was...
And did you go into any games? And then I asked Bill another question about the USFL.
Oh, yeah. I went to most of the Stallions games. I'm a little bit older guy, so I was 13 when the World Football League came to Birmingham. So I've literally followed every league that's come through Birmingham. And the USFL, far and away, was the best. By their third season, and it was great hearing Bill talk about this, but by the third season, there were several teams in the USFL which certainly would have been competitive in the NFL. It was a terrific, terrific league. And if you just look back, good grief. Just all the Hall of Famers that they have. 3 years in a row, they signed the Heisman Trophy winner right out of college. It was just an incredible league. And it was just so heartbreaking when, the other ones that died, there was always, especially me being a fan of Birmingham teams, there's always a certain amount of heartbreak. But when I knew that the Stallions of the original USFL weren't going to come back, that was awful.
Scott, let me tell you something about the other leagues before I go to Bill. About the other leagues, Charlie Ebersol, I say on every podcast, Charlie Ebersol should be in jail because he knew that the AAF had no money. Funny enough, I told a story. Reggie, I forgot his name. He was a defensive back for the Arizona Wranglers. Reggie was supposed to fund the league with $47 million. He went to jail because he had a lot of lawsuits and judgments that he was not paying on. And the AAF launched with very little money. And Charlie Ebersol knew it, so he should go to jail. That's my opinion. Bill, going to you.
Fowler. What's his name? Reggie Fowler.
You want me to tell you what really went on?
Yes, that is the truth. Ebersol had an agreement with Fowler to launch the AAF for $47 million investment, which would have kept the league afloat all year long. Reggie was basically, long story short, was stalling because Charlie kept calling him, and he kept stalling. And when he turned in $12 million over, but then he went to jail. They arrested him, and that $12 million had to be frozen. And that's the story, okay? Charlie Ebersol should go to jail. Now, Bill, to you on your last season in the USFL, 85, you went to the San Antonio Gunslingers, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was in 85, correct?
84.
84, all right. Sorry about that.
I was starting guard for the Bandits. We had a 1-game lead in the division. I got a stress fracture because we only carried 7 linemen. Ron Mikulochek, the right tackle, was my teammate with the Giants. Bobby Van Don used to play for the Colts. We lost 4 out of our last, I think, 5 or 6 games. Didn't make the playoffs. At the end of the year, they went on a youth movement. They released me. I drove over to Jacksonville, tried to ask the coach for assignment. He said, we're going to go with who we have. I went home. Spurrier calls me, Billy, what you doing? I said, I'm over here in Jacksonville, coach. What you doing there? I said, I'm trying to get on. We need you to come back. All right, same contract as before. And he knew I was holding out for, some really good money. So they brought me back, and I wound up playing 3 games for them. And then I got released, and San Antonio picked me up, and they put me in starting center the following week. Okay?
Right. But I have a question.
Yeah.
You know the story of the San Antonio Gunslingers. It's very famous, okay? With the cannonball run, getting to the bank, everybody knows that story. But let me ask you this, Bill. Did you ever have trouble with your checks with the San Antonio Gunslingers?
Let me tell you exactly what went on. When I got there, they gave me my money. All right, so I was happy. I never saw any of that stuff the first season. Okay, I knew Clinton Mangus because I played for the Carolina Storm, and Roger Gill was a general manager. And he came up to me and said, I'd like you to come play for us. And I said, no, I've already signed with the Bandits. That's why I'm up here. It was basically a semi-pro organization as far as the people in the front office, Roger Gill, because he'd had a number of teams there. Clinton Mangus was a criminal. All right, they're these notorious in San Antonio, they call him the man with a black hat. And I won't get into it right now, but, if you do your homework on him, you'll kind of see that he was involved in the oil business and running people off their leases and stuff. But we had an unbelievable coaching staff. We had unbelievable players. So we just tuned that out. But towards the end of the year, we kind of saw that they weren't committed to winning because we were, we knew that we could beat some of these other teams. And they just play and, go out and get a couple of players. And they wouldn't do it. So my line coach left and went to the Portland Breakers and traded for him, All right. But I didn't see any of that, Frank. With the year that I was there, we were just concentrating on winning and trying to make the playoffs. And we had a really tight group of guys and some legendary guys that have made some really big names for themselves in business and pro football and college football. So all that kind of stuff happened in the off season. Where the guys started getting stiff with their money, and it was really bad. But the league was starting to go down the toilet too in '85. So I was lucky that I wound up playing for a great organization called the Portland Breakers.
And you didn't have any issues with payroll with them, correct?
None.
Perfect. Now, I know A-Train, my producer, we have Kyle Smith waiting from USFL Project. And I'd like to bring him on because I know he's got comments.
Kyle, how are you, brother?
Now, first of all, if you're going to have Bill Winters on any program telling USFL stories, it's going to have to be an entire Netflix series. So we need to,
we're going to have him on
sure.
Listen, Kyle, we're going to have him on other shows. I told him this. He told me we're going to have to do more than one show. I said, yes, we're going to do that. But today, you know, I was trying to set him up, and I'm like, oh, shoot, the camera ain't working. And so we were kind of a little bit behind. But I appreciate him coming on, being patient with me. I love his stories. He's got some great stories, my friends. He does.
He's got some great stories. He's got some great stories that need to be, you know, led in with a narrator and all that stuff. I mean, we've got to get with Netflix on this and just get a Bill Winters series going, because I can tell you right now, it would be at least 8 episodes.
He's got a lot of stories.
We all stay in touch. You know, a lot of us with the Gunslingers, we still stay in touch.
Well, we are doing a USFL alumni and legend show, like I said it before, and every week it'll be a different team. For example, the Panthers, we got Novo, Holloway, Mr. Corker, John Corker, and we got others that will be joining us. And then with Portland Breakers, hopefully Bill can join us as well, along with Dupree. I'm going to invite Matt Robinson. Every week we're going to do this on my USFL Forever YouTube channel because it's grown, and every day I get comments. Hey, what about this? And what about that? What happened to this guy? And I remember when I was 15 years old, my father took me to this game. And so it just gives me so much great pleasure knowing that all this hard work has paid off. And so I appreciate all the USFL Forever fans. Keep watching. There's a lot of stuff coming. But Scott, I wanted to talk to you about something. You said you've watched every league. As far as quality, okay? Every league that's gone through Birmingham, from WFL all the way up to whatever it was, the last one, AAF, I think it was the last one.
Yeah, AAF was the last one before USFL.
Quality-wise, Scott, because you've been through it all, which league you think had the best quality?
Oh, the real USFL, no question. 83 to 85. I mean, there was no team Birmingham's ever had that could stay on the same field with the original Stallions.
And who would you say is the second one?
All right, in the World Football League, the first year there was the Birmingham Americans. The second year, the Americans franchise folded, but another franchise came in the second year, the Birmingham Vulcans. Even though that was a truncated season, and even though the Americans actually won the WFL championship, I think the Vulcans were probably a better team than the Americans. So if I had to rank them, I would rank it Stallions 1, Vulcans 2, Americans 3. And then the rest of them were pretty much, and I'm not, well, there's the CFL Barracudas, of course, but that's kind of a apples and oranges thing. And all the other leagues have been, strictly minor leagues. So none of those could have stayed on the same field with the three I just mentioned.
Okay.
It does.
Can I jump in here real quick? For those of you that listen to this show, if you're not following Scott Adamson on Twitter, you need to immediately. Scott, what's your Twitter handle? And you've got to tell us why we should follow you, because I find you incredibly interesting.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm just I'm a nerd, I mean, I'm a nerd and a sports fan. I sort of walk between both worlds. So hopefully that comes across on my Twitter feed. But alternative football is basically my porn. It always has been. So it's just fun to read about it, write about it. I love the history of it. That's really one of the main things I do on my website is do history pieces. And that's really my favorite thing to do. But then now with the new league, new league in Birmingham, I mean, they're playing literally 7 miles from my house, so I can't really ignore them.
I do got a question real quick. Bill, you have a book that you wrote, From the Outhouse to the Penthouse.
And somewhere in between. Yep.
And somewhere in between. Can you tell us a little bit about that book, why you wrote it, and what it's about, real quick?
Yeah, when the USFL folded, I was in a lot of pain. Because we were looking at a possible merger with the NFL, and we knew what they were going to incorporate some teams. And what the NFL did is took some of those markets like Jacksonville, Nashville, Oakland, and put NFL teams in there. So I just wrote it with my accountant, and we wrote it in 5 days in a driving rainstorm. And, I didn't want to write anything about getting sued, so I just made a fictitious character by the name of Parker Thomas. And, like I told you before, and I just wanted to get it out there because I knew eventually somebody would be smart enough to start a spring league again because, like I said before, a lot of these teams were as good or better than some of the NFL, lower echelon NFL teams. Like when I played for the Bandits, we knew we could beat the Bucs. Hell, our coach used to be the quarterback for the Bucs, and he went on press and said it. So, I just thought that would be a piece that I could write. And I'm actually thinking about writing another one. I just want to let you know that I had a lot of fun writing that book, and I just wanted to get it out there so that eventually if something came forward, we could build on it.
That's fantastic. Dustin, let me ask you this. Have you gotten a chance to watch any old USFL? How old are you, first of all? You look like a kid.
I'm 32.
32. Okay.
Well, actually, I didn't realize it was your channel, but I don't know how many games I've watched on there. So yeah, I've watched a ton of them.
Okay.
And what's funny is that Frankie not even looking at the screen right here. This is from you. That's from USFL Forever.
It just gives me great pleasure that the younger generation is looking at these games because let me tell you something, guys. One thing that really irritates me about the NFL is that they forget that other leagues made them, especially the USFL. Okay? They took some things from the XFL, the WFL, but the majority of stuff came from the USFL. Let's face it. Okay? And it's always good to educate the younger generation that this league existed because as Americans, and I've said this before, we tend to forget our history. We do it all the time. We like to rewrite it and pretend it never happened. Okay. But the reason I asked Dustin is because, he's a younger guy. He's involved in the sports website that includes USFL jerseys and stuff like that. And it just fascinates me that, he's got this interest. Let me ask you this, Dustin. If you looked at some of the games on the USFL Forever channel, what team did you like the most?
I grew up in the Bay Area, so if I had been alive to watch, I definitely would have been an Invaders fan for sure. But
if you'd been alive to watch, that really makes me feel old.
Yeah, I'm 55 this month.
But I've definitely watched a lot of LA Express as a Niners fan just to see, Steve Young, his first professional games. So it's really interesting to watch that for sure.
Well, I appreciate that because it means a lot to me. Guys like Bill Winters, he's got such a great story. Like I said, last night I was on the phone with him for an hour. I just listened. There were so many stories. We're going to be doing other shows. Hopefully he'll come back after the debacle we tried before we get on the air. But this man has got so many great stories. And there's so many USFL players that do have great stories. Kyle, you've met many of them. You know what I'm talking about, that these are unwritten stories.
And that's what, not to bring it back to us, but that's what the USFL project is all about. We want to protect the history of the USFL and guys like Bill and Dustin and you. They're instrumental in what we do. You talked about the youth movement. I literally, and I say this in all seriousness, I cannot get a package at my house from Dustin without my 15-year-old daughter going, "Hey, what is that? Is that from Royal Retros?" And
it's not in your size.
I can't lie to her. She's a child. I go, yeah. Dustin sent me a package. She goes, well, I need to see what's in there because she's already commandeered my USFL T-shirt from Dustin, and now Dustin was so kind to include a Tampa Bay Bandits shirt in the last package he sent me. And guess what I don't have right now?
A shirt.
Yeah, she took that Bandit shirt. It is hers. I will probably never see it again until I wash it And then I'm like, oh, that's my shirt. And then I'll go put it up and she'll come take it out of my closet. And so, I mean, it really is important to nurture the younger generation in the history of the USFL, because besides the American Football League, which was later absorbed by the NFL, the USFL was no question the biggest competitor to the NFL, and they knew it.
Well, there's a viewer that has a question for Bill, and Scott, I have a question for you.
Okay.
First, Bill, looking back, what are you most proud of? Your successful pro football career or your successful high school coaching career? Because you also a coach.
Oh, I just take it one day at a time, but obviously my pro football career, because I got to live my dream and also be a pioneer in something that I know had so much game that they've actually resurrected it. So to answer your question, definitely my pro football career. But I loved coaching too. I had one of the best high school jobs in the country, working for Willie Amendola, coaching the Spring Decaney Wildcats. We finished #1 in Texas, 20th in the nation. And basically I came out here and just retired with a nice pension. And so I was able to fulfill my dream as a coach and maybe not have to deal with all the bureaucracy that the college coaches and the NFL coaches have to deal with.
And you told me something about players from the past and young players today. Last night when we talked, where coaches are quitting for a specific reason because today's players are what?
Taking all the fun out of it. They work the guys too hard. There's too much artificial stress. Now they're going after guys for emails and all kinds of stuff, lawsuits and all this other stuff. So I think the American public has gotten to the point where, just like every monopoly, they've kind of overstayed their welcome, and there's opportunities in other areas, and the spring football will work. It's going to start slow, but it's going to give guys an opportunity to showcase their talents. I know the two kids that I coached that are playing for the New Jersey Generals, they played in the NFL. Most of these kids that are playing in the USFL are guys that have been on NFL rosters. And like I said before, some of these guys are going to turn into Nate Newtons and wind up, being great players because they're getting the reps they need to develop and work at their craft, and people are going to see it. I happen to go down and work with the Houston Roughnecks with the XFL with June Jones, and PJ Walker was playing quarterback. And I got a chance to be a guest coach for 2 days, and it was really hilarious. I ran to the line coach. The first thing he asked me if I knew Broderick Thompson. I said, yeah, I know Hair Bear. Hair Bear was my roommate with the Portland Breakers, where they were roommates with San Diego Chargers. So he right away, it's like the Army. I said, come on out and, and help me out. And if you see anything, go ahead and coach him up. Well, I saw PJ Walker, and this kid can throw a tremendous deep ball. And I'm going, man, this guy belongs in the league. And it wasn't for that. Nobody, he's playing for Carolina. So, the new USFL, they're going to put quite a few players into the NFL. Same thing with the XFL and the Alliance. Hell, the backup quarterback for the Rams was Rick Neuheisel with the Arizona Hotshots. I went down to all these training camps. I've got all the coaches, on speed dial because they're all my age and we're having fun. Hell, Coach Riley just texted me yesterday. And because I said, good luck. And he said, thanks for coaching up Trey. We're really happy to have him. He was coaching with the San Antonio Commanders. So I'll just put it to you this way. This is just like cable TV in the 80s, except this time it's a smartphone and gambling.
You got a point here,
business model, Dustin. Same business model. Except this time I think it's going to stick.
Scott, real quick, what's your most memorable game or memory about the USFL that you can say, yep, that's it right there. That's my biggest memory, my most wonderful time with the USFL?
Oh man, there's so many. I went to it turned out it was the first Monday night game in USFL history. It was the Stallions against the Michigan Panthers.
Mm-hmm.
It was a pretty boring game. The Panthers won 9-7, kicked 3 field goals. But that was the last football game I ever went to with my dad. So that's more of a thing that I look back now, and it means more now than it did then. But, frankly, I went to so many Stallions games. There was a time they beat the Oklahoma Outlaws with Doug Williams. First time they played the Memphis Showboats, I think hung 50 on him. It was a Saturday night, and there were like 50,000 people there. I mean, that was just, to me, when the USFL came along, that's when I thought, you know, Birmingham has a major professional sports franchise now. You know, you can look back at the others, and they came in and they were good teams, but the USFL was different. Like Bill was saying, like Kyle's trying to keep alive, like all of us who love the USFL know it was major league. It truly was. And it was just, you know, not to sound like a goob, but it was a thrill every time I went out and saw them play. But, you know, really one of the more memorable games, maybe the most, which is kind of a sad memory, is when they lost to Baltimore 28-14 in the conference semifinals in '85, because I knew, well, I didn't know, but I had a pretty good feeling that was the last game they were ever going to play.
And real quick, didn't they have the Save the Stallions night? If you remember, the owner had financial problems.
Oh yeah, they went through. They ended up getting, you know, sort of a bailout from the local government when it looked like there was a chance that they were going to move to Charlotte, and I believe this was, I can't remember if that was '84 or '85, but it was already when it must have been '85, because I think
'85, yes.
Yeah, because the wheels were kind of starting to come off, and you thought, well, you know,
well, they were playing Dustin's Oakland Invaders, since he's from the Bay Area. Real quick, Bill, I always wanted to ask a Portland Breaker, what was Dick Curry like as a coach? Because we hear the stories, the warm, fuzzy, hey, he was a player's coach. He was huggable, and he cried a lot. He cared about his players. He was like the Dick Vermeil of the NFL. Can you give us an insight how he was as a coach and as a person?
Yeah, Coach Corey was a family man. He had 2 of his sons on the coaching staff. His wife was always there, you know, too. Just a tremendous coach, but just a player's coach, a guy that you just want to fight your butt off for. You know, and just a very special guy. Very emotional. He would cry every once in a while. I loved him because I was the oldest guy on the team, and I got traded to block for Marcus Dupree, and my line coach left and went to Portland. So he wrote me a nice letter saying, welcome to the Breaker family. It's in my trophy case. And he made me feel very comfortable and very wanted, you know, and I felt like, you know, this is
Did we lose him? Bill?
His audio problem.
You know?
Yeah, there he is. You there, Bill?
Yeah.
Okay. I always love what I liked about the USFL guys is, if everybody remembers This Week in the USFL, that half hour or hour show, whatever it was, where it spotlighted the players and the coaches and the league. My memory of the USFL, actually, it was watching Herschel Walker play at the Meadowlands for the first time. Actually, not the first time. It was towards late of the season against the Stars. And that's when I knew the Generals sucked, because I'm a Generals fan, okay? And I'm just curious if, and I know, Dustin, you were not born at that time, but Dustin, what did you think of the quality of play when you watched the videos of the past USFL? What did you think as far as, hey, if I was born at this time, I would think this?
For the most part, I didn't really see much of a difference from watching NFL films from that time. The one thing that has kind of stood out to me is the referees, though. There's a lot of obvious bad calls that they just seem to just ignore and just move on to the next play. No one argues it, I've noticed. But the actual play itself seems to be NFL quality from what I could see, at least, you know, watching film.
Absolutely, man. I mean, me personally, I'm 37. So when it came out, I was just born. I understand I'm a young butt, but I did watch. I know. I try to make y'all feel bad. Don't be too upset with me. All right.
Did I just come on a show with a bunch of children?
Yes, that's what I feel like.
We're the old guys.
Listen.
Speak for
I
yourself.
appreciate the histories. I always appreciate the histories of professional football. One thing that I can say on this show is that I will go back and watch American Football League games. I will go back and check out the World Football League, learn about it. American Football Association that Bill played in. Of course, the USFL as well. That is something that always, and I'm like Scott, I'm kind of like a nerd. I'm just watching all these different games and getting a better understanding of what professional football was like outside of the NFL. And like Kyle was saying, everybody's saying that the AFL absorbed with the NFL, but yes, the USFL was the best. Who can forget the football, man? You serious?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's something that I would love to have in a personal collection. Is that football, man? Because it lets you know that it was, like you said, Dustin, the same game, but it wasn't. Yeah. It was the same game, but it wasn't, because they were playing their style of football, and they really were trying, like Kyle said, to be major over minor. That being said, what do you think? Because my belief is this. I believe that the XFL should be its own entity. The same thing with the USFL. They should be their own entity, and you cannot be considered developmental or minor if you're playing in major metropolitan cities. You cannot be considered that at all.
Yeah, I disagree with that. I see your point, but I mean, if you're at a level where your guys are hoping to jump up, and play in the NFL, that's the case with this new USFL and the XFL and Major League Football and everything else. I mean, I think basically by default, you're a developmental league, in that sense. I mean, I guess it depends on, the XFL, it's kind of interesting. I'll be glad when they more flesh out what they plan to do. But, I think the goal for all of them, whether, regardless of which spring league they're playing in, is to make get the big contracts in the NFL. So, I mean, if you have an XFL team in Dallas, that's a major market, but, it's still a quote unquote minor league team.
So let me ask you this, Scott.
Honestly, I agree with Scott. I agree with Scott. I think the only way that Spring League right now survives is if they are developmental league. I mean, I really do. I mean, I don't wish any ill will on any Spring League that pops up and tries to play, but I think that Spring League football right now has to be developmental because of the NFL monopoly.
So then let me ask you this. Yeah, go ahead, Bill, because then I got something I want to add on that. Go ahead, Bill.
I wasn't going to say anything for once. I was listening.
You mean you're going to keep quiet? Come on.
Yes. Hey, it's the sponge technique. I threw a lot at you. Now we got the dealio. Now I can just chill out and listen.
Okay.
Go ahead,
so then
A-Train. Go ahead, A-Train. Go ahead, A-Train.
Okay. With that said, do you see, Scott in particular, because you follow it so heavily, do you see that at some point the XFL and USFL can remain playing spring football but can get to that similar level as the NFL, or you think the NFL just got it completely on lock?
Oh no, I mean, I don't think you would ever see the USFL or the XFL ever get to that level. I mean, I think as long as they exist, they will basically exist as a launching pad to go to the NFL. Now, if say both of them survive 2 or 3 years, I think you could see a merger possibly, but still it would be a merger of a minor league.
No.
Stop that, Stop it.
No. Listen.
You telling that
I want
I
want an XFL, USFL Universal Bowl championship. That's what I want.
The Universal Bowl?
That's right. I don't want no XFL merging with USFL. Keep it separate. It's like the 2 X's in your life, Keep them separate. You don't invite them to dinner, all right? No.
Hey, Frankie, some of us have more than that. So, let's just calm down on that.
Kyle, I did have to ask you. I didn't ask you, though. What was your biggest USFL memory that you know?
My biggest USFL memory was driving from small town Oklahoma up to Tulsa to see my very, very first Oklahoma Outlaws game. and it was miserable. It was raining. It was wet. It was
But
brutal.
you loved it. You loved it.
It was a terrible stadium, but God, I absolutely was hooked in 1984.
And the Outlaws had great uniforms too.
Yes.
No,
I love the logo.
The Outlaws should have worn the all blacks every time they absolutely could. The helmets, the jerseys, the pants. You've got to wear that all black uniform. You've got to walk in there, like a Dutton on Yellowstone. You've got to come in there just ready to, guns blazing. You can't wear the white pants or anything else. You've got to go all black unis. That was so good. And by the way, my Outlaws were also a part of football history. They were the first team to be in a colorized game when they played the Chicago Blitz, and they both wore colorized jerseys. So the Outlaws had black and the Chicago Blitz had red, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, such great memories.
I can tell you this. I love the Panthers logo. I did like the Oklahoma Outlaws logo, but I hated when they merged with Arizona, the Oklahoma and Arizona. I mean, that was an ugly uniform. Ugly everything, okay? I mean, that was like bringing your ugly sister to the dance, all right? I'm sorry. Or ugly cousin. I mean, that's the way I saw it. But, Bill, going back to you, I need to ask you a question before I forget, because this show went by so quickly. You went from the NFL to the AFA, American Football Association, to the USFL. Curious question. What the hell was the AFA? And I hate to admit my ignorance, but I never heard of the AFA, American Football Association. What was it like? Can you hear me, Bill? Don't know if you can hear.
Bill walk off?
Okay, so while we try to get Bill back, I've got two very hard-hitting questions, and they're one's for Scott and one's for Dustin, and these are going to be the toughest questions they've ever faced, because I've been watching a lot of Dateline. So let's just get ready. Scott, do you want to go first, or Dustin, do you want to go first?
Dustin's younger than me by about 4 years, so he can go first.
All right, let's go to Dustin at Royal Retros, the king of the throwbacks. Dustin, what is the, not USFL all time, what is the ugliest uniform that you were so excited to be able to reproduce? Because I know the right answer. I'm just waiting on you to give it to me. So what was the ugliest uniform that you got a chance to reproduce?
Well, I would say the ugliest one I've ever seen, I think it was the Tucson Toros baseball team. Well, nobody's actually ever ordered it because it's so ugly. That's tough.
I think he's back.
Yeah, we got Bill back.
At least from what I've seen, that's the ugliest uniform I've ever seen. If anyone wants to order a Tucson Toros, I think it's like a 70s one. That's pretty bad. What do you think, Kyle? What was the ugliest one you've seen?
Oh, I know exactly what it is. It was the team that came in the 90s that had a logo on their helmet that looked like it was drawn by a 6-year-old. It had to be the Orlando Thunder.
Oh,
yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That was offensive on TV, much less in person.
Me with the neon jerseys?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was offensive when Scott Mitchell started playing. Scotty sucked. Oh, God. But, Bill, now that we got you back, okay?
Yeah, I actually knew what to do.
Thank you. All right, listen.
I'm learning.
You went from the NFL to the AFA to the USFL, but I, again, claim ignorance because I never heard of the AFA, American Football Association. I played on 2 of those teams in that league. Can you tell us what that league was about? And I know it came right before the USFL launched.
Yeah, it was a semi-pro league that guys got to play in. Most of the guys lived locally, had jobs, would show up after work and play ball. So they had teams all over the country. And then Billy Kilmer, the Redskins quarterback, became commissioner of the league. And they started to see that, hey, we're drawing fans. Hell, when we won the championship with the Carolina Storm, we had a little under 23,000 people there.
Wow.
What was the pay like?
A couple $100 a week, but we had rent, and they gave us meals. But a lot of the franchises folded. But it was, I kind of liken it to the beginning of the NBA G League. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And Ellsworth Turner was an unbelievable quarterback. He needed some help reading coverages, but we were a really, really good team. I mean, we couldn't play with the USFL teams, but because of the talent, and the coaching. But there was Reggie Smith, myself, the guy that my backup was the world wrist wrestling champion, Bobby Hopkins. Tim King wound up playing for us, and these are guys that came out of college that wanted to play ball and hopefully showcase their talents.
Wow.
So we got a percentage of the gate, and we had a lot of fun.
Scott, were there any Birmingham teams in the AFA?
I'm glad you asked. This gives me a chance for shameless self-promotion. There was the Alabama Vulcans in 1979. They were owned by Harry Lander, who was affiliated with the San Antonio Wings of the World Football League. And then in 1982, there was the Alabama Magic, and I won the Name the Team contest. They were called the Alabama Magic because of the entry that I entered, and it was pretty exciting because I won a jersey, a case of eggs, and a case of eggs. Which
I could give you that for free.
Hold on, I've got some questions.
Wait a minute, eggs. Oh my God, no wonder this league folded.
Well, it was one of those things. It was just whatever company contributed to the prize pack. But the biggest was a lifetime membership to the quote-unquote Disco Singles Club. So, and they lasted like a year, so it was a pretty short lifetime. That was my famous
right,
moment. I'm the winner of the Name the Team contest of the Alabama Magic.
I have a question for Scott real quick.
I'd like to jump in right now.
Hold on, Kyle.
There are not too many human beings that can say, I want a case of eggs. So, just kudos to Scott right there. But, I mean, no, not very many people can say, I want a case of eggs from whatever.
Remember, I was telling you, hey, A-Train, remember I was telling you about my rookie year with the Redskins that Gerard Williams and I were the only guys they signed? Gerard had played for the Birmingham Americans.
Wow. Yes.
And he wound up playing in the league for a couple of years afterwards. So, like I said before, a lot of these guys played their way into the NFL, just like the USFL will.
Hey, wow. Bill, who'd you hated the most to play against?
Oh, Ben, a guy by the name of a defensive tackle, Ben. I think his name was Ben Bennett from the Oakland Invaders. He would get over and every time I snapped for field goals, he would cheap shot me. Because back then they would line up on the nose. They didn't have this rule they have in the NFL now that you can't hit the center. So he would just sit there and try to take me out.
Wow. Because I know the Bandits hated the Generals. That was like the Hatfield McCoys. Because they just hated each other.
I actually watched that game yesterday on something that one of you guys posted, I believe. And I happily watched the game. Okay, Frankie. First thing I got, Dustin. There were so many bad calls in that game. I totally understand what you're saying.
The Generals won. That's all that matters.
Yeah, they did. But I was laughing because the Bandits weren't anywhere as near what they were in '83 and '84 because they were having problems. They went with younger guys. The older guys went to other teams. There was a rivalry going on because back then, they were dealing with a $2 million payroll. So that's why a lot of us jumped to other teams because, hey, we want our money. This is a business. Okay. That's pretty much why I played a lot of different teams. I signed 1-year deals with no options. A little ahead of the yield curve.
You were America's football player because like the Portland Breakers, they kept traveling, from Boston to New Orleans to Portland. Which team that you played on paid the best?
The Portland Breakers. They traded for me. They gave me my money. That was an NFL team. We were loaded. Buford Jordan wound up playing for the Saints. You know, and we had Marcus Dupree back there. We had Dan Ross. We all jumped leagues for more money. I was up in Canada making more money than the NFL. This is a business.
Yeah, it is.
I was playing in the CFL, man. I got more than a Super Bowl share for losing a Grey Cup. Plus, it was $1.38 in the dollar.
I love.
Okay, I mean, you know, I'm not a dumbass. I'm from Princeton. This is business.
Hey, Scott, do you remember? 62,000 fans? Donald Trump's New Jersey Generals versus Birmingham Stallions. 62,000.
I do. I was at that game. 17-6, New Jersey.
Yes, I know. I have it on my YouTube Forever channel. So if you want to watch it,
Yeah, you would bring it up.
And that's one thing I do need to make a correction from something earlier said. That was the game with the Panthers was the last game I went to with just me and my dad. My dad and my brother actually went to that game together.
But you see, Scott, that's what I'm talking about. I hear that all the time. My father and I went to the game. I hear that all the time, and that's why I did what I did with the USFL Forever channel, because Kyle gets credit for this because he's the one that kept pushing me to start the USFL Forever Facebook page. And if you remember, Kyle, you were the one that said you should do it. And I said, nah. And then something happened where I just got thrust into it. But I hear that a lot. My father and I, we went to this game and it's great memories. That's why I did it. That's why it makes me feel good. People like Dustin watching the games, the new generation, people like you who remember the games going with their father. That's why I did it, because I wanted to preserve this league and document the league so the newer generation could know that the NFL is not the end-all be-all, that they were created by other leagues, especially USFL.
Well, and I think it's even more special for guys like Kyle and I, because we were from areas that didn't have pro football. So this pro football came to our city or our area, and that was huge. I mean, you know, you've got a major league football team in your town, and that's a pretty damn big deal.
Well, and to piggyback on that, Frankie, first of all, I don't know who the hell you are. I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't.
Yes, you did. It was you.
You did this all on your own.
Oh.
But, so back to the, I got to bring this back to the hard hitting questions. First of all, I want to ask this to Scott real quick. Scott, first of all, your book on alternative football in Birmingham is fantastic, and I left an adjective out of there that probably wouldn't be welcome on the show. Where can people find that book?
It's pretty much, you can get it if you look on my website. It has a direct link to Amazon, but you can pretty much get it through any kind of a book retailer. It's pretty easy to find.
Oh no!
And what's the website?
It's adamsonmedia.com.
Okay. And so now, since Frankie won't do it, I'm going to ask the hard hitting questions. I've got a question, USFL, that you've probably never been asked, and I'm going to ask it right here on this show, live on air. We all know that Bill Winters is the best center that ever played in the USFL. Who is the best two-way player that ever played in the USFL? Because, again, I know the answer.
Oh, shoot. Damn.
How you going to tell us? Kyle, you're going to get kicked out of this group tonight, man. Tonight.
You
got all
the... Man, I watched Dateline. I've been getting all my questions ready.
David Greenwood.
David
Greenwood. He was the punter.
Kickers don't count.
Ooh.
Who?
Kickers don't count. Bill.
Say that again, Bill.
Dave Greenwood's a good pick, but I'm thinking about a former Birmingham Stallion.
Oh
man! See, this is going to be embarrassing if I
don't like dumb questions.
Well, I know it's not Joe Cribbs.
Or Cliff
They're making too much money. Joe, you're not going to get hurt. You're playing offense. Let's see.
No,
it's
Joe only knew how to run forward.
Oh wow! God, there were so many good
two-way player for Birmingham.
He played for Birmingham. I'm not saying he played two ways for Birmingham, but he played for Birmingham.
Oh, so
got to
it's
be
a
a receiver
question.
to play defensive back and receiver.
No, it's not.
Okay, that's my guess. I'm out.
It's
All right. You gotta give an answer, man.
I have no. I've got to. Can I call him a lifeline? Isn't that what they used to do on that show?
What are you gonna call me?
Yeah, you're gonna tell me. That's what I mean.
Right.
What's the answer, Kyle?
The greatest two-way player in USFL history is Joe Bach.
Oh my God!
Bach.
Oh,
You
Lord.
damn right. And I will plant my flag in the ground that Joe Bach was the greatest two-way player of all time.
Joe is a trip. I love him.
He's great on Facebook.
Yes,
But
we talk, him and I.
Ladies and gentlemen, our host,
Yes.
Mr. Dirty, is here. Thanks for joining us. An hour and 22 minutes late. That's okay.
I just have to say that question by Kyle was as bad as your haircut, Frankie.
Listen, I already addressed my haircut problem, okay? I'm in Guatemala. Things happen.
Hold on. Frankie. You got Dustin over here, who's an actual professional. The dude's about ready to fall asleep from that question. And then, for that was just the biggest setup I've ever seen, Kyle. I mean, what was that monstrosity?
I'm just telling you right now that the Joe Bach is the greatest two-way player of all time, and you missed 3/4 of the show. So I mean, you haven't heard all of my other great questions. I mean,
what did he
you're
play
right.
on
I haven't.
What was that,
What
Bill?
did he play on offense?
Yeah, what did he play on offense? I thought he was special teams, Joe Bach.
He was
snapper.
offensive lineman. He was offensive defensive lineman.
Yeah,
and Joe, and what's funny is Joe will tell you that he's the greatest USFL two-way player of all time. That's the only reason I brought it up.
Dustin, don't worry about it. It's past you.
Yeah.
It's way.
I'm sorry to say I've never heard of Joe
okay.
Bach.
It's okay. I know who he's talking about, but it's okay. And Dirty, of course, thank you for joining us because obviously, you were managing some baseball game.
Yep. Little bastard sucked.
You weren't umpiring, were you, Dirty?
No, he's managing.
No, I was.
Thank God.
They suck. No, I was a mean umpire. Kyle, I'd have kicked you out of this because of that dumb question you just had. I mean, Jesus. I'd have boom, gone, out. You're out of the game. Frankie with that haircut, he needs to shave it. He needs to shave that head and get a better haircut.
I already addressed my haircut problem, okay? By the way, guys, Scott, Dustin,
you got Dustin over here looking all lined up and pretty and all that stuff. You got Scott down here looking good. Kyle's looking a little rough like I am. We can't see Bill, so I don't know what he looks like. From the voice, he sounds like a big beastly man.
Guys, for those
all I got to say
about
that.
I am living in Guatemala, Central America. I've been living here for 5.5 years. And so I went to get a haircut a week and a half ago. And I said, hey, I want number 2 on the sides and just short on the top. And he went like buzzsaw. And by the time it was over, it was too late. That's the story.
Stay away from those $5 hot haircuts, Frankie.
Well, actually, it cost me like $10. So that's
always be careful when you ask for number 2, though. I mean, that's.
Listen, Guatemala, it has great food. It's a beautiful country. I enjoy living here, but sometimes they just piss me off when they get things wrong. So that's the story.
Right,
and Dirty, keep quiet. You're late to the party, so nobody wants to hear from you.
Frankie, I can end the show. Arlington's
We're
out. I can
supposed
end
to
the
be
show.
ending the show. You made it just in time.
I did,
by the way,
right.
guys,
Well,
I appreciate all of you for coming on. This is such a great pleasure for me. Bill, Kyle, Scott, Dustin, not you, Dirty. Talking about
we know.
The league, USFL, talk about pro football. I love this, the stories, everything. I love this stuff. And I hope we can continue going
we lost Scott.
In the future. Yeah, he's probably the link. But I hope in the future we can have you guys on again, talk more as the USFL season is going to start, the new USFL. Kyle, you going to watch?
Oh,
no. Come on, Kyle. Admit the truth. Admit the
about
truth.
that. Yeah, I'm probably not gonna. I'm not gonna partake. I mean, I love the fact that those kids get.
Now, Kyle, I gotta ask you, why are you not going to?
Because if I want to watch mediocre football, I'll go any Saturday to a middle school game and watch that. I mean, I'm just saying. I mean, I'm glad these guys are getting an opportunity. I hope they make it. But I mean, this new USFL is the spring league rebranded, and I'm not gonna step off that.
Fair enough. It does.
And the spring league
I
was
agree
not
with
that
that.
good.
You gonna watch?
I'll be out there. Yeah, I'll be having a tailgate on Saturday. From probably for like 4 hours. So if you're out there, come by. So I'll be.
Bring Kyle with you.
I'll be there.
Scott, I'm sure you're gonna watch, right?
Well, I will be there. I'll be covering it from my website because, like I said,
cool.
it's regardless of, even though we know it's not the real USFL, it's 7 miles from my house. I mean, I could actually walk to the game. So,
and Bill,
God, I may be coming down.
Bill, what players do you have?
I want you guys. I'll give you the heads up. DeJuan Hines is playing linebacker for the Generals, and Trey Williams.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now Trey's going to be one of the better players in the league. He played in a couple of NFL teams, and same thing with DeJuan. They've made some pretty decent money. All I can tell you is they're going to be one of these two kids may even play way back into the NFL and be there permanent. All right, it's really hard for roster spots, especially at running back. So I'd really appreciate if you guys would watch, especially Scott. What I'd love for you to do is come down to them, because I talk to them and text them every once in a while over the last couple of years, ever since they graduated. And Trey played with Manziel at A&M. In fact, I just met Johnny a couple of days ago. He's down here in Houston. And, the first thing I said to him was, Trey Williams. He goes, yeah, they're like really close. So I'd love, Scott, for you to run into them down there and say, hey, Coach Winter said hello, and they'll freak out because I always pop up when they least expect it. Like the San Antonio Commanders practice. Yeah, it's great. And they need it, because they're a little nervous, but they know they're going to, have an opportunity to play and showcase their wares and, maybe play their way back into the league. And they're going to make some pretty good money while they're doing it.
I hope so. And by the way, Mike Tackett, I do not want an AAF jersey, okay? Charlie Embasol, period. Go ahead, Dirty.
So, I mean, now, Kyle, here's what I want to ask you. You say it's going to be mediocre play for mediocre players, right? So, I mean, just some of the notable players. You're talking Jordan Ta'amu, who was second in the league at the XFL.
Mm-hmm.
You have Shea Patterson, Devontae Smith, Scooby Wright, who was Arlington. Mistake me if I'm not right. Scooby Wright was what, third in the league in the XFL for total tackles, something like that, right?
Yeah, he's playing for Birmingham.
And then, and then you got the one kid, Marcus, whatever his name is, who just tore up that European league. I mean, there's some good players in this league that have never really gotten a shot. So why do you now, just because it's the spring league revamped because of Brian Woods, he's a huge douchebag. I mean, you don't have any faith in Fox and of doing what they're doing?
No, it's not that I don't have any faith. It's just that all the statistics that you just put out, I'm in the top 50 of all those statistics, and I didn't play.
What?
You can convert him.
I mean, you want to put apples to apples. I'm telling you, I'm a league leader in the XFL, just like some of the guys that you mentioned. I'm just lower down.
Okay. So, Scott, Dustin, A-Train, Dirty, who are you looking forward to watching? I'm looking forward to watching two players. The Luis Perez, the new quarterback for the Generals. I'm looking forward to watching him.
Former quarterback of the Birmingham Iron of your beloved AAF.
I am not an AAF fan. I hate it. Charlie Embasol should be in jail, period.
That's his story. He's sticking to it, bro.
Is a huge fan of Charlie's league. He gargles him all the time.
I hate that
loves
guy.
Loves him.
And if you feel so strongly about putting the guy in jail, his name is Ebersol.
Ebersol. It's all the same.
Ebersol. It's
We call
not
him
Ebersol. It's Ebersol.
Listen, it's all the same to me. I don't care if I mispronounce his name. He's an idiot. Okay, but I'm looking forward to Luis Perez and the guy from the European League, Maman or Laman, whatever his name is. Who are you looking forward to, Dustin and Scott? Who are you looking and A-Train too? Who are you looking forward to watching?
I really like Jordan Ta'amu. I'm not really exactly sure what to say, but in the XFL he looked really good, and I do remember Luis Perez on the iron too. So both of them. But honestly, I really haven't heard of many players in this league, so that is kind of a surprise because the XFL and even the AAF, at least half the players I'd heard of before. But I understand where Kyle's coming from. Is there's a lot of people I'm like, I don't know where you found this guy, but there are a few.
Yeah, for me, it's just a matter of I want to see an entertaining game. You know, it's like Kyle had mentioned. You know, whether it's a middle school game or what. I mean, I'm not really. It doesn't matter to me who does what, as long as it's interesting. And you know, especially first week, 3 weeks practice, it's going to be really sloppy. But I'm just hoping it's sloppy fun and not sloppy boring.
Listen, I'm looking forward to Mr. Magoo at quarterback with Birmingham.
And so, and this is for Dirty, who I know he's pointing questions at me, and I'm totally okay with it because I can give it as well as I can take it. But I think Luis Perez probably has the most pressure on him of any other player in the league because of the situation that he was put in. And it's not that I haven't followed what's going on with the USFL because I have kept an ear to it. But I think Luis Perez, he has the biggest boom bust in the entire league.
A small ear, Al. A small ear.
It is a small ear, but I think Luis Perez has the biggest. I can't say that. He has the biggest show or no show in the entire league.
A-Train, who are you looking forward to?
I gotta go with my guy Jordan Ta'amu, man. Not because I saw him in St. Louis, got to see what he was able to do. He's going to be under a different coach now with Todd Haley. You know, compared to him being next to Chuck Long, I was sick and tired of hearing about so much in St. Louis.
He was Mahomes' backup in Kansas City.
Yes, I understand.
He was.
I understand. Let's see if they let him open up the offense while he's in Tampa, you know, or playing, of course, for Tampa, because he's not playing in Tampa, so he's playing for them. So, but that's how I look at it with him right now, and he's probably the only quarterback that I actually really do recognize other than Shea Patterson from the Michigan Panthers, you know, so I would have gave it to him, but Jordan's there. But it's letting me know something about the XFL, but I'm going to keep that for tomorrow tomorrow.
I just want all the teams.
I mean, are we going to sit here as seven different individuals and we're not going to talk about the biggest news in the USFL so far? I mean, we're not even going to address it.
Oh, the lawsuit the day after the first weekend.
Mike's got a question for Dustin. So Dustin, Mike wants to know: can we get some FXFL jerseys and some AAF jerseys? I'll buy Frankie one jersey of every AAF jersey. Is that possible?
Can we get that? Can we get that for the scrimmage?
I can put Ebersol on the back of all of them too.
No, Dustin, you will be on my shit list on that one. I do not want an AAF jersey. Listen, I watched a San Diego Fleet game and I fell asleep because I didn't know who the players were. The stadium was practically empty, and I was like, "This thing's gonna fold." Little did I know it folded because of Reggie Fowler, but I knew it was going to fold. It was boring. Now, they had some good players. I just didn't see it as, it was not. First of all, when you put in, what was it? Memphis. They had a Memphis team. Oh, Memphis Express. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? That makes no sense.
Now, hold on.
To me, I knew it was going to fold.
Were those two
right,
leagues
Frankie,
around
now-
long enough for them to have pictures for Dustin to even produce jerseys?
Oh my God! It came like the wind.
I mean,
And I see Mike
So
Taggart's
here's another-
question, and if he was paying attention, I mean, the injury to a major quarterback with the New Jersey Generals, that's why Mike Perez has the most pressure on him, because he's got to step up in an 8-team league, and he's got to be a starting and an elite quarterback because of that injury. I mean, that's pretty simple.
Remember, he did the same thing in New York. He had to come in a situation where Matt McGloin was tossed out, and boom, Luis came in and picked it up within no time. So
Hey, what happened to that guy?
Hold on, and if you remember,
You're absolutely right, and he's got to do it again in another new league.
Mm-hmm.
If he's done it before, he can do it
I see what
again.
you're
So it's like, I understand where you're coming from, but it's like Luis knows what's ahead of him. That's why he waits for the opportunity to get it. And so because he's getting it, he's going to be ready for that.
If
Right,
the
but I've
Generals
done
lose, if
but
the
I've done a
Generals lose
cartwheel.
all
I've done a
10
cartwheel.
games or whatever game whatever the season is,
Not ready to
I
do
will
that.
wear any AAF jersey every week on this show if the Generals lose
Dustin,
every
get
game.
it ready.
Yeah, it's gonna have to be the hot shots because those are just terrible.
A-Train,
uniforms.
I completely understand what you're saying, but I've done a cartwheel before, and I don't know that I could do it again.
See, that's entirely different than what you're trying to accomplish with this one. But
all right, so let's go to Scott. Scott, 2 players that you're excited to see in this new USFL league.
Oh, excitement's kind of the wrong word.
Not sure a little bit of enthusiasm.
I'm just trying to look at it
I
kind of.
swayed Scott.
No, you didn't.
I don't know. Shea Patterson, the Panthers, the quarterback, and Magoo, the quarterback of Birmingham. Just because I've interviewed him a few times, it feels like I sort of know a little bit about him. So, I mean, it's just going to be interesting to see, but especially since you had these teams that basically 2 months ago, they weren't, they had names, but they had no players. It's just going to be kind of interesting to see on Saturday and Sunday which teams come out of the gate, which teams were better prepared,
Okay, let's ask Bill.
Okay,
Bill, what quality of play
what I'm
do you
getting ready
expect
to,
on the
Frankie.
USFL?
It's going to be the best of the XFL and the Alliance and the other league that played. Forget the name of it.
Embersol?
Yeah, Ebersol's league.
The guy that's
the
going to jail?
AAF. Okay, I looked at the rosters. These guys, most of these guys have been on NFL developmental rosters, or they've been activated at one time. So there's some really good talent there.
You hear that, Kyle?
Yeah.
Oh, I heard it.
Now here, I'll give you mine.
Now let me
Mine's
see
London.
it.
Well, hold on. Mine's London. I'm excited to see this kid, what he can do on a big stage. And just because I watched Last Chance U, I'm really looking forward to seeing Franklin as the wide receiver working there with Jordan to see what he could do with Jordan. Because, I mean, we saw what Jordan could do other than when Chuck Long wasn't running his goddamn offense, how he could throw a ball to our man LaDamian Washington. So I'm really looking forward to seeing Franklin in London of what they can do on a main stage.
Hey, is that
That's who I'm looking
Arlington's
forward to.
big screen with the Denver gold back
Look
there
at
versus the Tampa Bay Bandits?
Look at A-Train.
Exactly.
He is showing off.
It is.
Bill, you played
I
that.
told you, Robert Young. I'm running
I
left
told you,
guard right here.
Frankie, I had this for you, baby.
Number 55,
Dustin,
Bill
Okay, I'm-
Rangers on the offensive line.
I'm doing this
there
for
goes
I'm
John
doing this for
Breeze.
Frankie. There we go. That is
Let's see
that's
what
a
I
Birmingham
Birmingham.
Iron.
What?
There's a Birmingham Iron jersey.
I
for
could
you,
care less about
Frankie.
that jersey. Burn that jersey, will you? I'm telling you, the AF was the most biggest disappointment I ever saw in my life.
Frankie, can I ask you a question? Do you
Sure.
like the AAF?
Oh, God.
Yeah, Frankie. Why don't you answer his questions like Dirty has asked me questions?
I'll answer Bill's question.
Frankie, hold on. Frankie, I got a question for you. What was the most exciting thing for the AAF that you liked the most?
that San Antonio Commanders linebacker hitting the quarterback in the first game.
Yeah,
The first game of the
Down.
season. Yeah.
That was the only highlight that I liked. I was like,
I was there.
San Antonio Commanders had a great team, had a really good team.
27,000.
Yeah, they did. They had a great team, great fan base. But after that, I was like, okay, is this it? By the way, the Dustin, the hot shots. Oh my God, really? That is the most hideous uniform.
Hold on.
Who
Don't
was smoking?
you
Who was
dare
smoking and saying
disrespect our firefighters and our first responders.
Rick
The
Neuheisel,
Arizona
my
Hot Shots
teammate,
had
was
a
the head
great
coach.
Uniform.
Hey, you better be careful, Frankie.
put
Don't
him
be
in
talking
solid
bad about
mood
Bill's
today.
teammate.
Listen,
You know,
Bill,
the
come
backup,
on. Those
you know,
hot shot
Walford, the
uniforms were
quarterback's
horrible.
the backup for the Rams.
Say that again?
Yeah.
John Walford,
John
the
Walford.
quarterback for the Hot Shots, is the backup quarterback for the Rams.
But the uniforms were ugly. And by the way,
Yes,
Scott,
they were. I'll
Scott,
give you that.
The Birmingham Bolts, the most boringest helmet in the history of Spring League. That was the most.
Did you say Birmingham Bolts?
Whatever the heck they call themselves. Birmingham
there
was
you go.
That was a soccer team, wasn't it?
Yes,
oh, the Birmingham Iron. Yeah, I flashed that helmet. Hang on.
The most boringest. Look at that. Look at that. I feel like
but I'll tell you though.
I'm like Carrot Top. I'm a prop comedian here. So
This is live coverage of Scott Adamson going around his room.
The most boringest helmet. When I saw it, I couldn't believe it. Like, who designed this? Like, let me see. Yeah, black. Yeah,
Hey,
that's it.
So
That's
Dustin, that jersey should be very easy for you to get to Frankie. Is that iron jersey?
If the Generals lose all 10 games, I will wear any jersey you want for AAF every week.
Nope, that's not how that works, Frankie.
No,
we gotta wait till July.
0 and 10. 0 and 10. I will wear the jersey.
Nope, not how it works.
Because
All right, let's
I
get to
swear
it.
to God, whoever created the AAF uniforms and helmets had to be really high. And I don't get it. I looked at him like, this makes no sense to me.
Right here, guys. Right here. Mike wants to know, is anybody surprised Trent Richardson isn't playing in this league? Let's start with, since Frankie's like to control this whole conversation, mute his microphone, Arlington. We're going to start with Bill. Are you surprised that Trent Richardson's not in the new USFL?
I guess he decided that he doesn't want to play ball anymore.
Okay. Scott?
He wasn't doing all that well in the Alliance.
Yeah, I'll let Bill answer for me.
Okay. I mean, he can play, but it's like anything else. You got to keep getting better at your craft. And I don't know if he has. I don't know enough about it to say, but if he's not playing in this league, then he doesn't want to play pro football because that's the only way he's going to play himself back into the league.
How old is he?
Probably in the late
32?
32, something like that.
I think.
Frankie would be interested to know that he's old enough to have played for the Birmingham Iron. So, of the AAF.
Yeah, and he had a hard
I
time
heard he was
making that
playing
team.
in Mexico. He had started some kind of league. He was part owner in Mexico, and he was playing there like a year or two ago. Is the last I heard.
Oh wow!
Yeah. It didn't sound like it was like that competitive. But I guess he just wanted to keep playing. But yeah, that's for last I heard.
I've heard
There's one
from.
thing. Go ahead, guys.
I was saying I'm hearing from some people. I had did a Spaces one day, and there were a lot of the players that didn't get selected for the USFL. They're already looking at the XFL to play in. So
But some
they
didn't
were
even show
already.
up.
You said what?
Some didn't even show up. There were some that they said the USFL.
They weren't going to. They weren't going to show up.
There were no shows.
Yeah, they weren't going to show up because they were
contract.
Yeah, they didn't like the
contract.
Yeah.
Here's
Fox
the
is
nice
trying to
little
say
thing.
that they can't leave and go anywhere else if they show up.
Man.
Yeah, see, that's bullshit.
Guys, I got to
He's
interject
playing
something here.
That's
Go
the
ahead,
team he's
Bill.
playing for.
Remember how I told you this league is like cable in the 80s, except this time it's a smartphone and gambling. What's behind this is the gambling, your phone, and gambling. That's what's going to drive the revenue in this league. The CFL just did their collective bargaining agreement and netted out $6 billion. So they don't really care if people go to the games. Okay, they're going to sell the franchises and move them eventually. All right, they're going to hub the teams in Birmingham. But what's going to be behind this is what's driving the revenue and why somebody wants to buy a team and then maybe move it, except for the Birmingham guy. That there's going to be a lot of revenue generated. So they're going so this is going to be a very interesting deal moving forward. We may be looking at expansion big time next year in markets that we never thought would play, giving kids an opportunity to play. And I would think there's only a database of 3,000 guys that are in the pool that'll even get the shot to play, and they got to make the roster. So this is just an expansion of the marketplace. So, Kyle, I agree with you right now that you may not want to watch it, but over the next couple of years, you may turn on because you're not going to be able to tell the difference between the talent because money talks and BS walks.
I'm telling you,
and I totally appreciate that, but I think that there will be more people bet on D3 football than there will be ever on USFL or XFL.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Kyle, I value your opinion very much. I would just say this. They ran a prototype of this league last year called the Spring League. And they outdrew the NBA in ratings except for the playoffs. So they know they got a model that works. I just hope they don't screw it up and they go slow. I watched an interview with the owner last night. He's a lawyer and a techie. And I think to answer Frankie's question about why all these uniforms are so weird is they had a gambling app that they were playing around with in the Alliance. I sat in the stands where the kid was a virtual coach. And I was watching him because that's why I went there. I won't talk too much, but, I want to throw that in there because as we grow together, and I'm really hoping that, we can get together and do this again because we're going to watch this, in virtual time. Okay. And they're starting out in baby steps, but this thing could morph into something really big within a couple of years. But it'll never replace the original USFL because of the money that was paid. But you're going to find a lot of real good players like PG Walkers and Tamu that can play already. We already know that. They just need to keep their reps going until they play their way into a league. So eventually, maybe we'll surprise ourselves and sit back and laugh and go, wow, we used to do this. And remember when we started out with a podcast and that dumb ass Bill Winters couldn't even get his picture up there. But, as we're moving forward, this is why I'm involved. It's going to keep me young. I'm really enjoying this because I feel like I've been recycled.
How much are you going to be involved, Bill, with the new USFL? How much?
Well, I want to first. I think I'm going to have to take a road trip down to Birmingham. What I was going to ask Scott was, I hope we get to do this again. Since Scott's 7 miles from the yard, I want to know what kind of fans are going to, what kind of draw they think they're going to get. I think they'll average 10 or 15,000 fans religiously, but like they said, they just run this prototype. But it'll eventually, once the teams move out of there. The Birmingham will average, really good, a good amount, 20, 35,000 fans a game religiously because of the expansion of the marketplace.
Well, one thing they're doing right now that's smart is tickets are $10, and with the $10 ticket, you can get in, I think, up to 3 kids, 15 and under. So, yeah, they're not really doing it. They're not concerned with attendance, but they know that if they have cheap tickets like that, especially for opening night, they should have good attendance. The only problem now is 3 or 4 days ago, it was supposed to be a high of 76 and clear on Saturday. And now there's supposed to be thunderstorms. And
that's Birmingham this spring.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it could be absolutely perfect weather, or you could have a Sharknado. You just never know what's going to happen from one weekend to the next.
That is Alabama, man. That is Alabama. Oh,
Scott,
my gosh.
I will say this, guys, real quick. As they move forward in this league, they're not really concerned with attendance. They're concerned about money being generated off the gambling app.
And, ultimately, it is a football league, but it's a television show. So it depends on the ratings. I mean, if they have good ratings.
Didn't Fox sell the digital rights already and they're making money off of it?
What's that?
The digital rights. Fox sold the digital rights to NBC. They got suckered into it, but they paid for it.
Oh, you talking about the broadcaster game, simulcast, and all that stuff?
Yeah, the digital rights, right? Didn't they sell it or not?
Well, NBC bought. I think NBC bought it.
Right. So they're already making money off of it, right?
Yeah, and then of course you saw the commercials and ads and stuff, and what we have shown on the program here. So, some of the ads have already been put out.
I want to know, guys, who the hell created the mascots? Did anybody see the mascots?
Oh, they're terrifying.
You're everything.
Yeah, I like Philadelphia.
Some young kid that that had a market. Because you got family entertainment, the little kid's got to have a mascot. So tell us about the mascots.
Come on, was it Woody?
Only you would know something like
nightmares.
That. Huh?
That mascot is the thing of nightmares.
The Houston Gamblers. The Houston Gamblers.
It's whoever made the Pelicans one. It has to be.
Oh,
who?
Pelicans mascot.
The only one that I liked was the Breakers. That was the only one I liked. But he said the Pelicans mascot.
Have you ever seen the New Orleans Pelicans mascot?
What the hell is it?
They had that bird that was making kids cry. They had to get rid of that.
I figured it was just their play that was making kids cry.
I just don't understand, guys. I just don't understand.
Listen, I'll say this. Hold on, I'll say this because this is going to end the show right here because we're already at an hour and 52. So
hey, we're having a good time. You came late.
Okay, but the show's normally only an hour, Frankie, until you get that bad haircut all of a sudden. And now I don't think you have much of a brain because I think half of it got cut out because of that haircut. Jesus Christ. Poor Kyle looks like he's about ready to fall asleep. And Scott, he's just irritating you with walking around his room showing you all of his AAF stuff.
No, it's Birmingham stuff. It's Birmingham. Everything's Birmingham in there. You got to get it right.
No, I got some Jet stuff
Poor
too.
Dustin's got to get to work and get you the sprinkling jerseys. Shit, I mean, you better be quiet, Frankie, or you're going to dig yourself into a bigger hole there in Guatemala.
I think if the Generals go 0-10, I think Frankie should probably get a worse haircut, and I don't know that that's possible.
I will shave my head and wear an AAF jersey every week on the show.
If the Generals go 0-10, then Mike Riley might end up going back to Nebraska.
Can it get any worse?
Yeah, but if Mike Riley goes back to Nebraska, you've always got Jason Garrett in the booth to replace him.
Lord, Jason Garrett is going to be in the broadcast booth. If you heard the news about that.
Oh my God!
What's that?
He's going to be a teleprompter. Jason Garrett is going to be in the. Jason Garrett is going to be in the broadcast booth for the NBC games. I think he's the second crew for USFL games now. So Garrett is going to be a part of it. I just heard Jack Collinsworth, which is Chris Collinsworth's son. I'm like, God, I got to hear that in the USFL. Goodness gracious. And then
again,
I will.
A-Train, hold on. How do they come up with this stuff? The mascots, the freaking announcers.
Broadcast teams, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Chris Collinsworth's kid, yeah.
Let's ask Dustin. He's over there at ESPN. Dustin, how do they come up with this nonsense?
I don't know. I don't know why you'd have 8 mascots in one stadium at one time either. That doesn't make any sense.
Get around COVID, all right, and sell franchises and move them eventually, which is probably going to take a couple of years.
And get rid of the mascots.
I want to buy the Houston Gamblers. I'm trying to put a group together.
Hey, can I get free tickets?
No.
Oh, come on, Bill.
It's only $10. Don't be so cheap.
Bill, I got a question then. I'm in Houston right now myself.
I want to meet with you.
If they would play, what venue would they play in? I think in Rice University.
They're gonna do exactly what the Roughnecks were doing. They had 6 kids off that team that are playing in the NFL. They're not developmental rosters either. PJ Walker's one of them. All right, some of these guys are injured and play their way back into the lineup. Some were NFL guys. They'll probably play at U of H.
I seen Rice University. I heard that the top level is horrible, but everything else would be actually okay.
The Houston market, the Tampa market, the Orlando market, the southern markets, and a couple teams up north, that's where everybody's going. You got to follow the demographics. You don't want to be sitting in the cold, freezing your patootie off. You know, that's why I think The Rock's going to have a tough time trying to put his thing across the major markets. But you got cities. So I agree with Kyle to a degree, but there are some cities that are rocking, ready to go. San Antonio, Orlando, you know, they've proven. Even San Diego, but San Diego doesn't have a pro football team anymore. Biggest mistake they ever made was moving the Chargers up to LA. So these guys are pricing themselves out of the marketplace. So I just think there's a niche for spring football. It's going to be a little tough to watch on television, you know, but I don't, you know, the first couple of years. But I think people that get it are going after that gambling money. All right. And, you know, the app, and that's why the NFL's behind this as well with Fox. Those guys all know each other. Trust me. I got a guy that's an insider to all this stuff, so I can kind of let you know about some of this stuff. He finds players and puts them in the leagues. So, you know, as we get to know each other a little bit, I'll try to give you some inside information on some of the stuff that's going on.
And if you buy the gamblers, me and Kyle get free tickets so we can go to those games. Right, Kyle?
No,
Frankie, you get
fucking lootly not.
Huh?
Who was the quarterback for the Gamblers? Who was the quarterback for the Gamblers in the 80s?
Jim Kelly.
And Matt Dillon, the backup. Am I right?
All right, so let's.
Money talks.
Yes, you're right.
Me
Bullshit
and Kyle,
walks.
Houston Gamblers, we're going free, Kyle. You and me are going.
This is the Pro Football Alliance show. I am your late host, Dirty. Thank you to my producer extraordinaire, Arlington, for filling out. You know, there's our co-host, Frankie from Forever USFL. Frankie, where can people find you?
USFL Forever YouTube channel, USFL Forever Facebook page. And the YouTube channel is the only original channel with all the games that were on TV. And anybody else who has them on their channel, they stole them from me. They're a bunch of bastards.
He ain't lying.
5-second plug into an hour with Frankie.
Listen, you were late.
Next to me, sitting next to me, Dustin is Dustin there over at Royal Retros. Dustin, where can people find you at?
RoyalRetros.com or Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Follow us on social media as well.
And Tinder.
See, Frankie, see how fast that was?
Not Tinder.
You see that, Frankie? Did you see that? That's how you do it.
I have to say what I have to say. I got ripped off.
Yeah,
Tell him,
okay,
Kyle.
and right down here is Kyle. Kyle, where can people find you?
You can find us at the USFL Project on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Instagram. We are there, the USFL Project.
See, Frankie, how quick that was? And right below me is Mr. Bill. Bill, where can people find you?
Well, go to my website, billwinters.biz, and I'd really appreciate if you'd read my book. And I got links there that'll connect you to my other Instagram, which is at BWinters50, at BWinters55. And I'd love for you guys to subscribe to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/C/BillWinters55.
Listen, to all the Pro Football Alliance fans, if you don't go buy Bill's book, you might as well just go and jump off a bridge because you're nothing but a bum. Go buy the man's book. Help the guy out. Go buy Bill's book. If not, go jump off a bridge. And right there next to Bill is Scott. Scott, where can people find you?
I am AdamsonMedia.com, and you can get me on Twitter, just Scott Adamson.
And with that being said, this is the Pro Football Alliance. Tune in tomorrow for XFL STL Talk Show. Ooh, we got some big stuff to talk about. Other than that, Frankie, we will see everybody next week, right?
Yes, we've got Bob Newton, former Seattle Seahawks, former Chicago Bears, former Chicago Blitz, and Boston Breaker. He played in the USFL. Bob Newton will be with us next week.
Dustin, if Frankie was on regular radio, he'd already be kicked off, wouldn't he? Because not hitting those IDs fast enough, huh?
Man, you were late. You see what I got to put up with, Bill, Scott, Dustin? You see what I got